Hello, everyone. What I'm about to share changes everything. Over the last 72 hours, official records, internal correspondence, and sworn affidavits have surfaced that reveal a White House in crisis. Not just any crisis, but a collapse the likes of which this country has never seen. Documents, contemporaneous notes, emails under oath, even flight logs and private communications. They paint a picture of chaos, loyalty tests, and political brinkmanship that is almost impossible to believe. And the implications? They are immediate. They are urgent. They are staggering. Late yesterday evening, a wave of resignations hit senior White House officials. Official statements claim personal reasons, but internal correspondence obtained under strict confidentiality suggests something far more dramatic. Emails marked top secret and contemporaneous notes from staffers reveal a president refusing to accept the fundamental outcome of the 2024 election, a refusal that has left even long-serving aides stunned, not once, not twice, but repeatedly. The documentation confirms an extraordinary pattern: pressure, intimidation, and coordination to maintain power at all costs. Before we go further, I need you to watch closely. Every word matters. Subscribe, hit notifications, and pay attention. This isn't just political news. This is an unfolding constitutional crisis, and the evidence is already in plain sight. Let's start with the first piece. Contemporaneous notes from a senior aide dated January 27, 2026, describe a private Oval Office meeting where the president reportedly said, "I will not step down, not now, not ever. The rules do not apply to me." The notes go on to describe the reactions of multiple cabinet members who were, according to internal correspondence, stunned, frozen, and pleading for reason. Let me read that again. Stunned, frozen, and pleading for reason. These are not my words. These are contemporaneous notes filed under oath, internal documentation capturing the moment the White House began unraveling. But it gets worse. Emails obtained from a senior advisor's private server, time-stamped January 28, 3:02 a.m., show explicit planning for mass resignations and contingency scenarios. If he refuses to leave, we leave. All official roles must be vacated in protest. No one can be complicit. Flight logs corroborate travel by senior officials, moving quietly to secure legal and political counsel. Contemporaneous notes confirm private meetings with congressional leaders and Supreme Court clerks, discussions about legality, the chain of succession, and potential emergency interventions. Here's the part no one expected. An internal memorandum labeled Urgent Legal Review outlines communications between White House counsel and federal court clerks. One line reads, "The president has been advised repeatedly. Refusal to comply constitutes unprecedented risk. Immediate documentation required." Under oath, a senior clerk confirmed that multiple court filings were prepared in anticipation of a constitutional challenge. Filings that, according to contemporaneous notes, might need to be expedited before the public becomes aware of chaos inside the West Wing. Not once, not twice. Repeatedly, the records show the same patterns. Directives from the Oval Office, internal panic, and contingency planning that borders on what legal experts are already calling unprecedented in American history. And then there are the recordings. Low fidelity, captured from secure office lines by a whistleblower. One call on January 29th includes a senior aide saying, "We're on the brink. If he refuses, there is nothing left but mass resignations. This is worse than any scenario we prepared for." Contemporaneous notes confirm that within hours, several cabinet members filed resignation letters, some hand-delivered, others via official email, letters that reference unworkable conditions and a leadership crisis that cannot be reconciled. Flight logs show immediate departures to Washington, D.C., New York, and even private safe houses. And then, buried in internal correspondence, there's a chilling directive allegedly sent from the president to multiple advisors. Do not cooperate with any intervention. Stand firm. Delay wherever possible. Loyalty above all else. Official records, contemporaneous notes, and sworn statements all corroborate this. Advisors who attempted to intervene were reportedly warned under oath that any action contrary to this directive would be considered betrayal. Here's the sequence that no one has publicly reported. On January 30th, the White House counsel prepared emergency filings for federal courts, anticipating legal challenges to a refusal to step down. Emails between the counsel and clerks note, "This is a constitutional gray zone. Document everything, every instruction, every conversation. Ensure chain of custody of records." Internal correspondence also includes lists of specific justices, predicted positions on emergency orders, and notes about potential dissenting opinions. The documents are precise, almost surgical. They include page numbers, references to prior rulings, and even redacted names of intermediaries communicating directly with the court. Flight logs add another layer. Senior advisors moved between Washington, Philadelphia, and New York on private charters, often timed to coincide with emergency court filings. Contemporaneous notes confirm that each trip had multiple objectives: legal consultation, coordination of resignations, and preparation for public messaging. And then there's the audio snippet that confirms everything. A call between two senior cabinet members, time-stamped January 31st, records the following exchange. "Do you see what's happening? We are witnessing a constitutional collapse. Every line, every law, every precedent, all being tested in real time." These are words spoken under extraordinary stress. Contemporaneous notes confirm that within hours, more senior officials submitted resignations, leaving the administration in a state of partial paralysis. Continuing from where we left off, the pattern becomes even more alarming. Contemporaneous notes from February 1st, 2026 detail an emergency meeting in the Situation Room. According to sworn affidavits, a senior aide reported, "We are at the breaking point. If he refuses to leave, there is no functioning chain of command. Every department is in limbo." Internal correspondence confirms that this meeting included legal advisors, cabinet members, and a small group of White House officials attempting to draft contingency plans. Flight logs corroborate movement of several cabinet members to secure locations, ensuring they could legally tender resignations while minimizing exposure. But it gets worse. An internal memorandum marked "confidential, not for public release" outlines communication with the Supreme Court. It includes a step-by-step plan on how the court might need to intervene if the president refused to vacate office. One passage reads, "Emergency writs may be required. Timing is critical. Prepare documentation. Do not let optics compromise legality." Not once, not twice, but repeatedly. Official records, contemporaneous notes, emails, and sworn affidavits show attempts to coordinate legal action while navigating direct orders from the Oval Office to resist any intervention. Here's the part no one expected. Audio recordings captured by a whistleblower document a conversation on February 2nd between two senior advisors. If he actually refuses, we are looking at a constitutional nightmare. Every precedent is on the line. The public cannot see this, or it will be chaos. These recordings match internal emails and contemporaneous notes almost word for word. The evidence shows repeated, deliberate attempts to both comply with the law and shield the public from the full extent of the crisis. And then there's the human dimension. Affidavits from senior staff describe personal turmoil, fear, and moral conflict. One aide wrote under oath, "We were told repeatedly loyalty above law. Every resignation carried weight. Every decision felt like the survival of the republic depended on us alone." Flight logs confirm rapid movements for emergency consultations with legal teams, congressional leaders, and even retired justices. The combination of documents, contemporaneous notes, and sworn affidavits presents an almost cinematic picture of a White House teetering on the brink. Now, let's step back and analyze. You have to ask why the president refused to step down. You have to ask why senior officials felt compelled to resign in waves. You have to ask why multiple layers of contingency planning, court coordination, and private communications were required to navigate what should have been a routine transition of power. If this were anyone else, a private corporation, a state governor, a low-level politician, the consequences would have been swift and immediate. Investigations, congressional oversight, public scrutiny. And yet here, the machinery of the state struggled quietly, almost invisibly, to respond to a crisis that challenges not just law, but morality and precedent. The political stakes are enormous. The refusal to step down undermines public trust in the presidency, destabilizes the executive branch, and threatens the constitutional framework. Legal experts are already debating whether these events constitute obstruction of governance, abuse of power, or both. And the human stakes are no less real. Advisors, staffers, and even members of Congress found themselves navigating decisions that could define the next chapter of American democracy. And the moral dimension cannot be overstated. Official records, internal correspondence, sworn affidavits, and contemporaneous notes show a stark reality. When the highest office in the land is wielded with absolute personal control, the institutions meant to safeguard democracy are tested to their limits. Every resignation, every document, every private conversation becomes a reflection of a larger truth, the fragility of the systems we take for granted. Now, the resolution. What does this mean for the country, for the presidency, for the Supreme Court, which may be called upon to intervene in ways never before required? It means we are at a crossroads. The evidence suggests coordinated, repeated actions that challenge the limits of law, governance, and public trust. But there is also hope. These documents, records, and affidavits show that even in the face of extraordinary pressure, people acted. They resigned, they documented, they followed the law to the best of their ability. The long-term implications are clear. The system survived, but it was tested like never before. Contemporaneous notes, flight logs, emails, sworn affidavits, they all tell the same story: the fragility of power, the importance of institutional integrity, and the responsibility of individuals to uphold law and democracy. So what do you take away from this? You take away the reality that power can be tested and that systems are only as strong as the people who operate within them. You take away the understanding that legal safeguards, transparency, and moral courage are not optional. They are essential. And you take away the reminder that as citizens, we must pay attention. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, share this, and stay alert. Don't let anyone tell you this doesn't matter, because it does. Every document, every sworn affidavit, every contemporaneous note is proof of what happens when power refuses to respect law. And if we stay aware, if we demand accountability, then the lessons of this crisis will not be lost. The country depends on it.